What's going on, YouTube? In a time where brands can't have enough crossovers in their lineups, they are rushing to fill every possible void. For Honda, that gap in the lineup was the two-row midsize crossover. So, like Chevy, they decided to bring back a classic crossover name to fill it. Of course, we do want to especially thank our friends at Gates Honda in Richmond, Kentucky for giving us access to this brand new Passport before it's even technically gone on sale. And if you're in the market for any new Honda, be sure to stop by their dealership or visit them via their website, which we provided a link to in the video description. So with the refreshed Murano, Edge, and the all-new Blazer coming out at the same time, let's see if Honda has made a product that can beat them all. So starting things here with the outside styling, Honda didn't go as extreme as Chevy did when it relaunched the Blazer. Instead, they used the Pilot's design as the baseline, and then significantly spiced it up from there. Nearly the entire front end is made to be part of the grille, which creates a mask effect kind of like the Audi Q8. The top part of the grille is finished in a high gloss black, while the lower parts are all matte black to match with the rugged trim pieces that trace around the rest of the vehicle. This certainly makes it stand out a lot more than the Pilot, and you'll find this on every trim. The headlights, however, are exactly the same as the Pilot, so on this Touring as well as the Elite, they are fully LED. They have a look very similar to the Acura Jewel Eye, but if you go for one of the lower two trims, you will only have LED low beams. Finally, Honda has also included LED fog lights on all models. I also do want to mention the ground clearance, since Honda is billing this as its most off-road worthy SUV. With all-wheel drive, it comes off the ground 8.1 inches, which is about an inch taller than the Pilot. Moving to the side, this is where it has the most resemblance to the Pilot. They actually do share the same wheelbase, but the overhangs have been shortened by 6 inches, and overall it stands more upright. There is no chrome trim anywhere on the vehicle, including in the back. All trims get this black accent across the rear, as well as an aggressive lower bumper area with dual chrome exhaust outlets. And as far as the rear lighting, most of the elements are LED, but the turn signal as well as the separated reverse light are incandescent. But overall, while the Passport does bear a lot of resemblance to the Pilot at first glance, once you start paying attention to all the details, you'll see that it does have a more stylish and rugged character. Now another big differentiator from the Pilot are the wheels. Honda actually gives you 20-inch alloys on all models, even the base trim, and they come in two different designs. We've got the solid spoke alloys finished in pewter gray, while the Elite has the same design but with a high gloss black finish. The other design is a split 5-spoke alloy for the other two trims, and it also can be finished in black or gray. Heading up to our mirrors, they are power adjusting on all models. EXL adds heating, Touring adds power folding, and the Elite adds auto dimming. But regardless though, they are always painted black. Now changing subjects here to safety. The Passport follows in the Pilot's footsteps by giving you the entire Honda Sensing Suite standard on all trims. Included within that are automatic emergency braking, lane keeping assist, adaptive cruise control, and automatic high beam headlights. It is worth noting that many of the Passport's rivals make you choose high-end trims to get these features. Finally, wrapping up the exterior. All Passports have 19.5 gallon fuel tanks, which is good for 429 miles of range with front-wheel drive, or 410 with all-wheel drive. And of course, it does use regular unleaded fuel. But anyways, that's it for the Passport's new exterior. So now let's go ahead and check out the cabin. So on the new Passport, Honda is nice enough to include standard smart entry. And then one difference from the Pilot is that you actually have the remote start system included on all trims, even the base model. And then to get inside the vehicle, all you have to do is put your hand behind the door handle and a sensor will unlock it. Alrighty, so checking out the cabin of the all-new Honda Passport. As you can tell right off the bat, it's got a lot of similarities to the Pilot, just like on the exterior. Now, as we talked about on the outside, you are missing the LX and EX trims, and in their place you have a Sport trim versus the Pilot. That does mean all but the base model come with leather seating, but on all of the trims you have the choice between a beige, a gray, or the black. And then turning over here to the door trim, it is nicely appointed. You have nice leather trim across all of the armrest, as well as a padded material above it. The top part is soft touch, and then you will find a nice piano accent. Additionally, you do have two-person memory seating on the Touring and Elite trims, and all models will find the fully automatic front two windows. Now turning over here to the seats, they are 10-way power adjusting on all but the base model, and you do have 2-way power lumbar support. And then as far as the seats themselves, they're really nice looking. I don't know if you can tell or not, but there's like little diamond shaped perforations in the seating. And then the leather itself feels really, really soft and supple. Now to get inside the Passport, it's really super easy. It's not a very tall vehicle, but it is a little bit taller than the Pilot. However, we do have the accessory running boards. Now the really neat thing about them is they're actually made of metal. So I've really not been in any other car except the Raptor that has metal running boards, so that's really neat. Now, like I already said, it does have a lot of similarities to the Pilot. However, once you start digging around, you will find some subtle differences in the materials. Across the upper portion of the dash, you do have the same soft touch plastic with the nice stitching detail, and that does continue down here in the middle part as well. Below that, you got some piano black trim, which continues all through this center area, and then down here you have more of that piano black trim. However, one difference I did notice is this cover has a different texture versus the Pilot. But as far as the actual build quality and stuff, everything fits together in that typical really high quality Honda way. Now to start up the Passport, you do have standard push button start. And when you press that, you will see this 8-inch touch display fire up on all but the base Sport, where you're going to have a smaller 5-inch display. Now, unlike this screen, every version of the Passport does get the premium gauges, which consist of this large 7-inch display and then 2 smaller analog gauges on the outside edges. Now, this is the same setup as we've seen on the updated Pilot, and it can show all types of different information, including for the Passport. You've got this really nice gauge here that will show you the torque distribution for the all-wheel drive system, and then you do have your traditional things like your phone navigation and various other settings. Now coming back to the steering wheel, we do have electric power steering, and you will nicely find a leather wrapped steering wheel on all models, even the base model with cloth seating. This is actually a little bit different than in the Pilot, because you do have this nice perforated area in the middle. Feels really nice in the hands. Now as far as the buttons, you've got your basic audio, phone and voice controls, and for the multifunction display. And then on this side you will find the controls for the adaptive cruise control as well as some safety systems. Now checking out the wipers, they will be rain sensing on the Elite trim. However, all of the models do come with paddle shifters. And then as far as the wheel itself, it is manually adjusting across all the trims, and it will be heated on the Elite. But anyways, moving on to interior storage, this is an area Honda has always excelled in, and the Passport is no different. So you'll see the continuation of the separated armrest in the Passport, just like in the Pilot. And this allows you to keep all this area free, so you can just come in and perhaps set a purse or grocery bags or whatever right here on top of this. Once you open it up, you'll see it's extremely deep and extremely large. You can fit just about anything in here. And you do have a 12-volt outlet as well as a USB port down there. Beyond that, you've got your 2 cup holders, and then you've got another big blank area here as well as above it. And this does also contain another charging USB and another 12-volt outlet. Now, unlike the Pilot, where the basic models come with a traditional shifter and then the up-level models come with the electronic shifter, all versions of the Passport come with this electronic shifter, since they all come with the 9-speed automatic transmission. Now, this is actually a really simple setup to get used to. You just press the D for drive, and then you can press it once more to go into the sport mode, where you can control the shifting manually with the paddles. Then for reverse, you're just going to pull back on this trigger. When you do, you will find a standard backup camera pop up on all Passports. However, you will have to go up at least to the EXL to get the dynamic guidelines. As far as other features, we do have parking sensors on this Touring as well as the Elite, but all models come with the 3 different views. And then on this model, you will find that the mirrors tilt down when in reverse to help you see the parking lines better. As far as what's back here behind the shifter, this is your drive mode select controller. So as you can see, you've got normal mode, snow mode, mud, and sand. And that of course is different from the Pilot because this has that off-road capability. And then that last button there just turns on and off your auto start-stop system. Now moving on up here, you will find 3-stage heated seats, and these are standard on all but the base model. However, to get 3-stage ventilation, you're going to have to go for the top and Elite trim. However, as far as the rest of the climate, you will find a standard 3-zone automatic climate control system across all the trims. Of course, this is very simple to use. You do have nice physical buttons, and then you can press this rear button here, and this is where you can control the back, or they can control it with their own buttons back there. But anyways, now that brings us up here to our audio system. So on your base model, you're going to come with a 152-watt 7-speaker sound system. And then when you go up to the Touring or the Elite, you'll have this 550-watt 10-speaker premium audio system. So let's go ahead and take a sample. Overall, I'm pretty impressed by the sound quality of this system. But anyways, now that brings us to the HondaLink system, so let's go ahead and take a quick look. Alright, so like I just said, this is the brand new HondaLink system, and the updated head unit that just debuted in the 2019 Pilot. So that does get you the updated graphics and the better performance, as well as the really nice touch display. Now you do have these tiles here that show you all the different things you can select. So starting out with the navigation, we do have the Garmin-based navigation system. As you can see, it is very responsive to your touch, and you can toggle between 3D and 2D views as well. And this does come standard on both the Touring and Elite trims. Now across the top, you do have some shortcut buttons, so you can quickly jump into things like phone. So in here you'll find your standard fare stuff, including all your contacts, which automatically sync over. Now, of course, what you all are probably most concerned about is Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. And they do come standard as long as you get this display. So the smaller 5-inch display and the Sport will not have them. However, if you get the EXL, you won't have navigation, but you will still have the ability to navigate through these apps. As far as other things to point out, you do still have the things like the social playlist and various family features that came out in the Odyssey and are also in the Pilot. And then you will find your AT&T Wi-Fi hotspot as well. But that's pretty much the main things I want to point out about the HondaLink system. But of course, we do have a really detailed HondaLink tech help video available if you want to learn more. A link to that video is provided in the description. Now moving on up, Honda nicely includes an auto-dimming mirror with 3 HomeLink universal remotes on all but the base model. And another feature you'll find on all but the base model is this moonroof. Now there is no panoramic option like some of the rivals have. However, it is nice that they give you this on most of the trims, since most rivals make you pay extra for it. And then you do have one of these mirrors so you can look at your rear passengers when you're having a conversation with them. But anyways, the Passport's interior is just a really impressive place to be. Yes, it is a lot like the Pilot, but the Pilot has a very, very spacious, comfortable, and versatile cabin, and that very much carries over to this Passport. But anyways, now I'll go ahead and give it to Mason to finish up the rest of the cabin.
So checking out the rear seat of the all-new 2019 Passport, you're going to be pleasantly surprised by how much space it has. You'll find 39.6 inches of rear legroom and 40.1 inches of rear headroom, which does place it around middle of the pack when it comes to its rivals like the Ford Edge and Nissan Murano. Now turning over here to the door trim, it is really nicely appointed. So you do have a leather-wrapped armrest with stitching going through there, and it is also padded above that. Now additionally, on our Touring model and the Elite, you will find these rear window sunshades, and of course your window is power. Now down below that, you do have some door storage, and you will also find 2 bottle holders right here. Now in addition to that, the rear seats of the Passport can slide and recline, so all you have to do is locate this little lever and slide it back and forth. And the seat itself is a really nice design, so you have perforation in the middle. It's a really nice, beautiful design, and it is also a very comfortable rear seat. To get in, just use these standard running boards. Now in the middle, since this does carry a lot of features from the Pilot, there are a lot of luxury features back here. So we do have standard rear vents across all models, and you can also adjust your temperatures and zones back here. Now in addition to that, on the 2 top trims, you will find 3 stage heated rear seats. And down below that, you will find these household style outlet and the 2 charging USB ports on the EXL trim. Now we do also have a nice center armrest, and it does have leather wrapping and cup holders in the middle. And up top we do have some lighting, a really nice headliner, and an assist grip and coat hood. Now with the seat scooted all the way back, since this is pretty big for the class, I still have about 6 inches of rear leg room, and my feet can easily slide up under the seat. But overall, I'm extremely impressed by the Passport's rear seat. A lot in the class don't carry as many features as this car has, and overall it's just very spacious and comfortable, which really carries over from the Pilot. Now these seats do fold 60-40 split, so just grab this little handle and they will fold right down. Now coming around to the trunk of the Passport, it is power on the EXL trims and higher, and hands-free on the Touring and Elite. So just wave your foot under the bumper to open it, and it opens right up. Now inside the trunk of the Passport, you will find a little bit larger space than you will on most of the rivals. Its technical rating is 41 cubic feet behind the second row seats, and it expands to 78 cubic feet if you fold them. Like I said, that does make it a little bit larger than the Nissan Murano and Ford Edge. Now coming over here to the side, you can fold the seat by just pushing this button, which is a nice touch. One click, and it does fold right down. And as you can see, when you do fold the seats, you have a completely flat loading floor, which is a really nice touch. Now under the floor, you do also have some more space. So I'd lift this up, and you have about 2.1 cubic feet under the floor, which is quite a bit of space. And if you further lift it up, then you have a spare tire, as well as a more space over on the left. And to your left, you do also have a 12-volt power outlet, as well as another little storage area. So the Passport really kills it in terms of storage space here in the rear areas. Passenger seat is that same nice design, and it is also 4-way power adjusting on the EXL trims and higher. Now in front of the passenger, I am impressed by the materials, since you do have a stitched soft touch dashboard, as well as some black piano trim, and down below that, you have a nice sized glove box. However, it is not felt lined. Up top, we do have a sun visor. It does also detach and extend. But anyway, guys, that covers all the rear areas of the all-new Passport. So now let's go ahead and check out the powertrain and do a quick test drive.
So of course, as we've said numerous times during the review, the Passport is related to the Pilot, and that does go for the powertrain as well. So you're going to have the same 3.5 liter naturally aspirated V6 engine, making the same 280 horsepower and 262 pound-feet of torque. However, you do have a slight difference in the transmission, and that's that all versions of the Passport come with the 9-speed automatic transmission, whereas on the lower trims of the Pilot you have a 6-speed automatic, and you have to get the upper trims to get the 9-speed. Front-wheel drive is standard equipment for your lower 3 trims with optional all-wheel drive, and then on the top Elite trim, all-wheel drive is standard. And then coming to your fuel economy, you do have standard auto start-stop on the Passport, and the fuel economy is pretty good. Comes in at 20 city, 25 highway, 22 combined with front-wheel drive, and that drops by 1 mpg on each of those metrics with the all-wheel drive system. Now as far as how that compares to rivals, that's exactly the same as what you get in the Blazer and the Hyundai Santa Fe, but a little bit behind what you get from the Nissan Murano or Ford Edge. But anyways, let's go ahead and take it for a quick test drive. Alrighty, so first taking off in the brand new Passport. My initial impression of the acceleration is definitely positive. Definitely gets going good, and it has a authoritative sound to it. You know, you've got the V6. Some of the rivals have gone to turbo 4 cylinders, but my preference does lie with a naturally aspirated V6 just because of having that extra torque and that sound too.
Yeah, and it's very smooth engine. Like when you accelerated there, I mean, it was very smooth and seamless acceleration.
So I'm noticing that the steering is very lightweight. It definitely reminds me, of course, of the Pilot, as you would expect. But of course, you know, in this class of vehicle, that is pretty much to be expected. All the rivals are like that.
And I mean, this is a family vehicle. It's obviously not as family oriented as the Pilot, but it still is a very comfortable big SUV. And its mission isn't really to be sporty.
Now, as far as the behavior of the 9-speed automatic, it seems to be very smooth. In my past experience with the Pilot, you know, they've retuned the transmission in 2019 on the Pilot, and you know, this behaves just as smoothly as it does in the Pilot.
You don't really feel any shifting.
Right.
Out of a 9-speed, you would expect that you'd hear it shifting a lot, and you know, in this car, I just riding along here, I can't really tell when it shifts or anything like that. So that is a really good transmission. It's the sign of a good transmission.
Like I was mentioning when I was talking about the Powertrain, this class of vehicle really has a lot of diverse engine and transmission offerings. But what you're going to get with the Passport is definitely one of the smoothest options available, you know, versus having a turbo 4-cylinder, or some of the rivals have a CVT, for example. I definitely think that this is one of the best, you know, options available, because it is that more traditional route where you've got the powerful, smooth, and refined V6, and having it paired with a traditional automatic versus a CVT or something of that nature.
And it doesn't seem too underpowered or anything. At 280 horsepower, it's right in the middle of a lot of its rivals, and it seems pretty powerful.
As far as the ride quality, it's definitely seems to be really smooth, definitely comfort oriented,
For sure.
but not in a sloppy way. I don't feel any type of like slop in the way that it handles or anything like that. It's just you know, definitely a comfortable family vehicle first and foremost. And one last thing I will mention here is that versus the Pilot, we do have standard paddle shifters across all of the trims. So if you're into paddle shifting your giant crossover, then you know,
But it does have
you do have that option.
Yeah, it has an option, and this is the sportier version.
Right. When it comes to things like that, I always say, why not? You know, give me the ability to do that if I want to. But overall, I'm impressed by the way the Passport drives, for sure. This is definitely a very smooth and comfortable vehicle, and like we've already discussed, it you know, manages to keep all the nice things about the Pilot, but then you've got that extra, you know, the extra good styling and the, you know, capabilities.
Added capability. As well as a little bit of a sportier attitude.
Right. So definitely appreciated that Honda now gives you another option, another basically size option for those of you who find this package to be more appealing.
So with the all-new 2019 Passport, you are going to find that the pricing is a little bit less than the Pilot as expected, and it's also less than most of its rivals. Now, Honda does a little bit interesting things with the trim levels. It's not your typical Honda setup. So the very base model is going to be called the Sport. So it starts out at $31,990 for the Sport model, and then the next rung up is the EXL, which is $36,410, and then the next rung up is the Touring, which is what we have here, and that starts at $39,280. Now, it is worth noting on all of those models that I mentioned, those do not come standard with the all-wheel drive system, so that's an additional $2,000. However, on the Elite model, it is standard, and that starts at $43,680. But all told, there is a $1,045 destination charge, so this model, as equipped, rings in at $42,225.
Right, and that's with the optional all-wheel drive system. However, of course, like all Hondas,
Yes.
there's no additional
factory,
options. And you can add some different accessories if you choose, though.
Well, guys, we hope you enjoyed watching one of the first in-depth looks at the 2019 Honda Passport Touring. Be sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons if you enjoyed watching, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.
Mm-hmm.